Hello and welcome to the NHL Best Bets. Last night there were 5 games. We had our picks, two of them. First one, Arizona continued their trip in LA, second game against LA Kings in Staples Center. And this time Kings were better, but unfortunately they scored a few goals too much. 4-3 was the final score, and game was over instead of our pick that was under 5.5 goals. But then in Toronto, home team played pretty much as predicted. They won clearly. Montreal, even though their second period wasn't any kind of significant, but Jake Campbell played very well at the goal. He took his 10th victory of the season, no losses so far. So if he's continuing that way, Toronto is a bit difficult to defeat during the playoffs. Tommy, what's your take out of these games?
Let's take first the under. It was a very under-like game, of course, in the beginning, 3 goals in the first period, but it was a defensive battle like we predicted. In the third period, then Arizona fell off the wagon. I think they might have gotten a little bit tired, and Kings managed to score 3 goals and win the game 4-3. So I think it was very under-like game. So you had 4 goals in after 2 periods. Arizona should have been able to freeze out the game for the third period. They did not. Maybe a little bit issues in the goaltending department there as well. So they're there if it was a good pick or not. About 50 shots, which would translate into 5 goals or so. So they're there, but sadly now the Kings came back into the game and took the victory. Let's see how Kings will perform if they get to play some other teams than Arizona, because I do think that Kings might be out of the playoff contest, but with this win they are still hanging in there. And then for the more positive one in Toronto, a good game from both teams, very entertaining ice hockey. Both goaltenders played a really good game. Toronto had a lot of chances to score early on. They could have gone ahead more than that 1 goal that Auston Matthews scored, the first one. Then Montreal got back into it, and the second period was completely Canadiens. I think the shots were, let's check. The shots were 4-17 in the second period for the Canadiens. A lot of good chances, a lot of good looks. But like you said, Jack Campbell, excellent game. He is now the #1 keeper, and Anderson will be the secondary backup here in Toronto. So very good thing for Toronto to find a goalkeeper that can keep them in the game, and the offense is so productive that they can score if they create this many chances. Then we had in the end a little scare when Montreal, I think they hit the post a couple of times, came back with an empty net to 3-2, but couldn't manage to find the equalizer. So a good win for us. A bit questionable odds for our picks, but it's a good thing that we got the green at least from one of these games, and a good game from Toronto, good win.
Then the other games, especially in the West Division, St. Louis finally went to the win column and beat Vegas 3-1 at home. At the same time, then Colorado was maybe thinking something else than ice hockey and didn't came to play in St. Paul, where Minnesota beat them 8-3. So do you think these underdog wins will propel these teams to the playoffs?
I think it was a good show of how competitive this division is, because like we mentioned yesterday's video, St. Louis Blues is a lot better team than we've seen. Now they played the way that they did when they won the cup. So they were defensive, they hung back, they shot 35 times, which is a lot, but Vegas shot 51 times. So it's a massive amount of shots taken, but great chances, not so many. So a good game from Blues in this way, that they are able to beat the better teams by playing defense, by hitting back, causing a lot of turnovers, and then scoring when they have the chance. So I do think that Blues might get a little spark from this and at least push for the playoffs, which is expected from that team despite all the injuries. And like we've been mentioning many times, Vegas had to lose at some point. Now they lost to St. Louis Blues. So good game from Vegas, just couldn't score this time. I do think it was a positive for both of these teams. And then in Minnesota, a good show that Minnesota, if Colorado leaves a little bit of an opening, the other team will exploit it. So this is what happened now. Colorado may be a little bit lazy at times, not as solid defensively as they have been. And Minnesota, of course, took advantage and scored a plentiful of goals. Not expected that one, but not a very good game from the keepers either. So 8-3, 11 goals in a game. Always something wrong with the goaltending if these sort of numbers come up.
Yeah, I think Colorado has been winning many games by over-scoring their opponents, but when you give 8 goals, the overscoring is a bit difficult task.
Yeah, Minnesota only shot 19 times in the game and scored 8 goals, so it tells a little bit of a story. Of course, a couple of the chances were wide open, so you can't blame the goaltender, but you can't blame the defense and the whole team's effort if you allow a team to score 8 goals in 19 shots.
Yeah, I think the effort wasn't there that is required to win any game in NHL. But tonight we have full spectrum of the games. Currently it looks like there is 10 games as Calgary-Vancouver game is postponed, but here you can see our picks for tonight. Nashville-Detroit, they play second game in a row in Detroit. Under 5.5 is our pick and has good value, even though the odds are not maybe the greatest, minus 123 there. But when we take a look of these two teams, they are quite defensive, and especially in Nashville, Juuse Saros has been playing very well in recent games, so he's probable starting goalie here. And if we forget the weird game where Detroit won Tampa Bay 5-1 a few nights ago, both these teams have had under as last 5 games, so under is valuable pick here. Then Montreal comes back from Toronto to home. Winnipeg start their road trip, and Winnipeg is maybe much better team than Montreal. Back-to-back results for Montreal hasn't been any great in the past, and odds plus 129 provide good value for visitor in this game.
Yeah, the Detroit-Nashville game, we have predicted it to go under previously, and we would again, because both teams not very good offensively. Nashville definitely fighting for their chance to make the playoffs, but in order to do so, they will play very defensively. Their goaltending is great. Their defense is good. Offensively, they're not as productive as the top teams of this division, so they do have to play a lot of defense, and turnovers are the one that they can score from, and also power play. Now Eeli Tolvanen, for example, has exploded and scored more than 10 goals. And mostly power play is the chance that Nashville has to score in order to win these games. Detroit, on the other hand, not scoring a lot. They have no chance of making the playoffs. That can be said already. They are pretty much tanking, and offensively quite lackluster. Like we checked the top scorers, it was somewhere around 150, the first guy, and it was a defenseman, Filip Hronek. Not very offensive team, and the defense can be good if they play defensively, and against Nashville they should be able to shut down a lot of the A-grade chances. So I do think this will be 2-2, 2-3 kind of game for Nashville. In the simulations, 1.8 goals for Detroit and 2.4 for Nashville. Both teams also less than 5.5 goals on average in all of their games. So looks like a definite under. Let's hope that there is not any flukes from the goaltending department, and no random dudes will score a hat trick or something like this. And then our favorite team to play against, Montreal Canadiens, last night lost to Toronto after a good performance. Maybe they are a little bit tired now returning home. Winnipeg Jets comes in, they've rested. Jets are a different team nowadays than Toronto is. Jets much more balanced, play a lot tighter defense, and do not make as many turnovers as Toronto, for example, last night, especially in the second period. Toronto's turnovers were the one that gave the game to Montreal, and Montreal took the second period but could not score. So I do think Winnipeg will keep better care, take better care of the puck, which allows them to control the flow of the game instead of Montreal. So I do think with these odds, Winnipeg Jets a great pick. It's much more of a coin flip of a game. Like in the simulations, Winnipeg wins 52% of the games, while the odds indicate somewhere around 43. So great value there for a road underdog.
In Central Division, we have a repetition of the top game. Florida plays in Carolina. Home team have good value here, but odds are not very good. Do you think it's worth to bet with this low odds for a home team?
It's a really interesting matchup, like we've seen with Carolina, Florida, both teams fighting for the top spot with Tampa Bay of that division. Carolina maybe a tad better team overall. Florida has slightly more productive offense, but not much. Alexander Barkov, of course, one of the best centermen in the league, now returned to lineup a couple of nights ago, so gives a definite boost for Florida, but still Carolina at home. I do think that with Petr Mrazek in the net, they are a little bit better team. Value is there for Carolina, 64.4% for the home team, while the odds indicate somewhere around 57%. So not very attractive odds, but still good value for the home team.
And then other top team in Central Division, Tampa, continues their series in Columbus. Last one was won by home team, but now there is a minor value for the Tampa in our simulations. Is it time for Tampa to win, or are they both to have second loss in a row?
It does look that Columbus is a very bad matchup for Tampa Bay. Columbus is the team that has played awful ice hockey. They played really bad against Florida. They played really bad against most of the opponents except for Tampa Bay. So I think Columbus has something going on in these games, and they've been very good. Last time they won 4-2, and now facing the second game, I do think that Tampa has a lot of things that they can do better than they're doing now, and they are definitely a lot better team. So it is interesting to see how Columbus will match up this time against Tampa. In the simulations, it's very close to the odds. We do have Tampa Bay at 61%, and odds are 60.2%. So a slight, really tiny value for Tampa Bay, but I do see this as clearly a game for Tampa Bay. But with these odds, I wouldn't go for it.
Yeah, this season Columbus has won 3 out of 2 games, and in the past this matchup of course have 2 playoff series that we remember. One won by Columbus when Tampa won the President Trophy in the first round, but overall Tampa has been leading here in Columbus during the last 3 seasons. They won 75% of the games, so 3 out of 4 in this sense, and after actually 2 losses because they lost this weird game in Detroit, it would be very interesting case if Tampa will lose 3 in a row.
Yeah, that would be a first, I think, this season. But as we've seen, especially in that game against Detroit, if you are coming into the game not that well prepared and think a little bit too much of yourself, any team in this league will beat you, because these are still NHL teams, a lot of quality players, a lot of players who have a lot to show for the next season, for their careers. In Columbus as well, young guys and a couple of players who have not performed to the level. So there is always a chance that they find their game and are a tough team to beat anyway, because the way Columbus plays at their best It's a very grinding, very physical, very aggressive team. So it won't be a walk in the park by any means for Tampa Bay.
Then one game where the road favorite has also very minor value to bet is Dallas in Chicago, where Chicago won the last game. It was tight, but home team was clearly better there. Do you think Dallas is going right direction in their roller coaster ride of this season?
Who knows? That's again a team that whatever we are predicting, it seems to go the other way. So now they are favored by the simulations for a couple of percent, so about 55% favorites in Chicago in this second game of the series. They lost the first one 4-2. The game was pretty much controlled by Chicago. They led 3-0 until the third period, and then Dallas came into the game but didn't manage to get the equalizer. So I do think Dallas is coming in as a little bit favorite compared to the last game, but Chicago has shown that they are capable of beating any team. So it will be a very, very close matchup. And like I said, Dallas, such a difficult team to predict which kind of performance we're gonna see. If we see the performance they are capable of that they did, for example, in their two games in Carolina, which one they won and one they lost, but they played the way that they are able to win their games and go to the Stanley Cup finals like we saw last season. But we've also seen a lot more horrible games from Dallas. So let's see what kind of a game this is. And again, very interesting regarding the playoff spots in this division, because there is a very tight battle for the fourth spot.
Yeah, currently Chicago is 5 points ahead of Dallas, but Dallas has played 3 games less, so maybe they are pretty much equal there. Chicago is currently 5th, Dallas is 7th, so both teams need to improve because Nashville seems to find their stride, and they are now number 4 in this Central Division.
Yeah, all of these teams are already playing their playoffs, because every game counts double as much because you are actually getting points off from your rivals here. So it is, every game is a 4-point game against these when these 3 teams play each other.
Let's see how this playoff fight continues tonight with these few interesting games. Basically all the teams in Central Division are playing, so we'll see also if the top teams are performing as expected. But naturally, North Division has some interest for our picks as well.
Yeah, and there we've been most profitable still.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.